Also, at least 18 people were killed and dozens of others were injured in Israel's retaliatory airstrike on a Gaza mosque. Israel's attack comes as part of its operation against terror group Hamas and the mission to neutralize all its centers in Gaza. Early on Sunday, a mosque near the Al-Aqsa Hospital in Deir al-Balaha in the central Gaza Strip became one of the targets as the war between Israel and Hamas approaches its first anniversary. And for more, we have Shubhendu joining us. Well, Shubhendu, good morning. First question to you. Amidst Saturday night strikes, if we talk about, which were among the most intense till now, Israeli forces continue ground incursion into Lebanon. And on the other hand, a red alert has been issued in Israel as the Iron Dome was also triggered there. Tit for tat going on. Where do we see all this going?
Absolutely, Lipakshi. Good morning. Yes, it's just going to be one day and it's going to be the first anniversary of this conflict that has been raging in West Asia. October 7th, remember, the attack by the Hamas on Israeli civilians was the beginning of the conflict, really. And almost a year it's going to be, and the conflict seems to be heading towards the direction of escalation and expansion, and that is a cause of worry for all the regional players and also for leaders of international politics. And that is also the concern that we see playing out as far as the developments between Israel and Lebanon is concerned. You mentioned rightly the escalation is taking place as far as the Israel's incursion into Lebanon is concerned. The Iron Dome has been activated really almost all the time. There is a threat that is posed continuously from the side of the Hezbollah, from Hamas in Gaza, and now Iran has also activated its own aggression towards Israel. Of course, after those 200 ballistic missiles that were launched by Iran earlier this week, there has been no step up. In fact, the world powers are on a standby to see the manner in which Israel is likely to respond to the Iran's escalation. Israel has said that they will, in fact, respond and reply to that aggression at a time and place of their choosing. But the manner in which it's going to play out, it is going to be the critical infrastructure, oil and nuclear sites is something that we'll have to wait and watch. But for now, yes, escalation and expansion appears to be the character of this conflict, which sees no signs of dying down.
Also, Shubhendu, Macron called for an immediate ceasefire in Lebanon as well as in Gaza. Meanwhile, Netanyahu dubbed Macron's call for arms embargo against Israel a shame, as he said that axis of terror stands together, and it was not happening here. Do you see an international shift in the light of Israel's response and attacks?
It is an important statement by an international leader of repute, Emmanuel Macron, President of France, but I wouldn't really call it a great shift in the international perspective on the manner in which this conflict is headed. Yes, calls for ceasefire has been going on. Calls for ceasefire has been going on by Israel's most powerful ally, United States, but it hasn't really materialized on the ground. Also, we have to see that France is not the major weapon supply. 70% of the weapons that Israel is using for its defense and offensive are being supplied by United States. So it is the manner in which United States takes a perspective, takes a stand on the ongoing conflict that will have a greater bearing. But yes, in terms of principle, what Emmanuel Macron says is significant. He, President of France, says that you cannot be calling for a ceasefire and peace in the region at the same time pumping in more weapons into the region. In that sense, he's also talking about the complexity of the manner in which Israel's allies and other powers are engaged in this conflict. But its bearing on stopping the real conflict, taking it towards ceasefire, may not have that kind of an impact that perhaps United States and its influence could have. So in that sense, what's coming out of France, the statements that are coming out from there would be significant in principle, but not so much practically. And Israeli leader Netanyahu, of course, has dismissed France's statement, saying that the fight is not just against an adversary, but the whole ecosystem of terrorism. Vipakshi.
All right, Shubhendu, very briefly, Israel eased some of its defense guidelines, but has deployed its forces on alert on the other hand ahead of the October 7th anniversary. Also, Blinken called the Qatari, Saudi and French foreign ministers to discuss the evolving situations in the Middle East. Now, with international pressure on the rise, what can be expected here?
Well, absolutely. You see, it's symbolically very significant, the first anniversary of the conflict. Israel also must, to its own people, at least be able to say that it has made important headway in the conflict. And one of the ways of doing that would be easing the restrictions that is being laid on its own people, although the risk remains high, as Israeli Prime Minister Netanyahu himself has said that the number of direct adversaries has increased. In fact, he puts the number to 7, including Houthis and Iran as a nation.
Right.
In that sense, the risk is high, but it is going to be symbolically significant to say that people can perhaps relax a little. The gathering size has been increased from earlier restricted 1,000 to 2,000 now. How much of a bearing will that have? If there is another attack from the outside, perhaps these restrictions could be taken back. And the point that you mentioned about Blinken's meeting of world leaders, we see that's an ongoing effort to really find ways to achieve a ceasefire. It hasn't achieved much results. It is coming at a very critical time when, as I mentioned, world powers are on a standby to see how Israel responds to earlier attack by Iran. In that sense, very crucial what comes out of these engagements.
Right, Shubhendu, thank you so much for all those details. And still to come on DD India News Hour.